Okay, I think we can get started. Thanks everyone for joining us today for our webinar with the State of Michigan Procurement Department. I wanted to thank them for taking the time to talk with us about doing business together. Um, I will let them take over and introduce themselves whenever you guys are ready.
Val, would you like to start off with introductions?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Valerie Hiltz, and I am the My Deal and Outreach Program Manager at the State of Michigan in the Central Procurement Services Office. We are about all things procurement, particularly reaching out to our vendors to being able to get them to contract with us, and also to our contract users so that they understand how to do business with the state. Go ahead, Eric, back to you.
Thank you, Val. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Pratt, and I am the Geographic Disadvantaged Business Specialist in Central Procurement Services Office for the State of Michigan.
And my name is Craig. I am the Communication Specialist for State of Michigan Procurement. So it is my job to explain procurement to non-procurement people. I kind of have one foot in both worlds. And I think that really transitions nicely to the actual first slide. How does State of Michigan procurement work? And that's why we're all here today, right? We're here to learn how State of Michigan procurement works. Well, this is how it works. So central procurement is the Department of Technology Management and Budget, DTMB. We're the central purchasing office, and we're part of that DTMB agency. We act on behalf of state agencies, and we handle every aspect of the bidding process over $500,000. And we set and implement the state's purchasing policies. We have a portfolio of about 800 multi-year contracts. They're worth billions with a B in annual spend, and we have a list of those contracts on our website. We will be talking about that in a few slides. How do we break this up? We break this up in 4 primary categories. We have commodities and professional services, which I will give you 2 guesses what they buy. Commodities and professional services. But when we say that, we mean ground equipment, office supplies, janitorial services, financial services. The things you need to run a state and the services you need to run the things that run a state. Information technology, that's its own division. That's hardware, that's software, that's contractors. That's also telecom equipment. That's also software as a service. It's a very broad category, and we spend a lot of money on IT stuff, but a lot of that IT stuff is also critical infrastructure. We have a real estate division, and they handle leasing. And when we say leasing, that is the state leasing private property for state use. And we lease a lot of stuff. 4 primary things that we lease: offices, obviously, warehouses, parking lots. And this was new to me when I started in procurement, which I thought was kind of interesting. We also lease lab space. And then we have design and construction services. Sorry, this is the second time I'm using this joke, but I give you 2 guesses what design and construction handles. If your guess was the design and construction of facilities, that is dead on. But they also handle like engineering, plumbing, HVAC work, building remediation. Like, you need an asbestos person in there. All the high vis vest stuff. Design construction handles, and we'll talk about these a little bit more in depth in the upcoming slides. So specifically, IT. We have a wide range of IT needs. That's on the next slide. Thank you. Hardware, software, data communications, telecom, data storage, and IT staff augmentation, which we break out here. So this is where, if you are in the IT space, pay attention to this next slide here. Vendors interested in providing temporary IT staffing to the state should register with Knowledge Services. To register, go to the page we've outlined there. There's a link on our website. There will be a link in the presentation. And this is some of the skill sets we are looking for with Knowledge Services. So if you're IT temporary staff, we have a contract with a company that manages IT staffing, and you'd register with them. for some real estate, like we mentioned, office, lab, mixed use, parking lots, warehouses. If you're interested in leasing space at the state of Michigan, we give you a web address. You can go there, you can get registered, and you can start that process. Design and construction division. They manage new facility construction, additions, renovations, environmental cleanup projects. Their services include all the things you'd expect from skilled trades, and current bids for all of this stuff will be in Sigma Vendor Self-Service. How do other state agencies work? That feels like a loaded question sometimes, but not really. So we have what's called delegated authority, which is a very fancy way of saying we've given other departments permission to, because we set the policy statewide for how purchasing works, but we've given them permission and we've delegated that authority to them. They can make purchases up to $500,000. And when we say other state agencies, we mean like DNR, the state police, or corrections, like the other departments. They have their own office that makes these purchases, and there are some exceptions to that. Like the Department of Health and Human Services has the authority to purchase all direct human services, no matter the value. And when we say direct human services, we're talking about contracting for medical professionals or social workers, that kind of thing, like hiring that expertise as a contractor. Direct human services. And then MDOT, of course, this is MDOT season. Been trying to get around Lansing. No shade towards MDOT. They are fixing some roads that desperately need to be fixed. So, but they have a separate office for bridge and highway construction contracting. And they use federal funds for most projects. So they require following federal regulations. If you're a disadvantaged business enterprise, they have their own program for that. So minority, women, and socially economic disadvantaged business owners, if you are in that road and bridge space, you have questions about their DBE programs that might be applicable to you because you're using federal funding, go to their DBE office, reach out to them. They're great over there. They'll get you the info you're looking for. And then next slide covers a question I get asked a lot. What about small dollar purchases? Like I'm just a little guy. What do I do? For purchases under 50K, we do not have to post those publicly. We do have to get 3 quotes still. It still needs to be competitively bid. We just don't necessarily post that publicly. And we're going to talk about what post publicly means coming up. And state agencies are still required, like we said, get 3 quotes. So you can market to agencies using the state agency buyers list on our website under the Contact Us section. We provide a directory of every buyer in the state that we know about. We update it quarterly. I'm actually the person that updated it, and I just updated it a few days ago, so it is as fresh as it's going to be right now, right this second. Treat that as a cold call sales list. Those buyers do not have to call you back. They do not have to take meetings with you, and they do not have to buy what you sell. But you can use that to make them available of your good or service.
Craig, can I pop in and say something real quick?
Absolutely.
All right. I just wanted to point out to his point, it's really, really, really difficult to do anything like a cold call on the state level. You might go to the buyer's list, you might introduce yourself, but don't think you're going to make a sale or anything like that. The only way that they're going to buy anything from you is through a competitive solicitation. Like he said, whether it's a small one or formally posted. You can bang your head against a wall thinking you're going to be talking to the right person. So just be aware, making your face and name known. They, like Craig says, they may or may not be able to get you in for a meeting. So the trick is to watch for the solicitations, and he's going to talk about that in a minute.
Yep. It's, from what I understand, Val, your experiences of former buyers very helpful here. It's a good way to make a buyer aware of your good or service. So if they were to go out for that small dollar purchase and get those quotes, you would be essentially, as our supervisor likes to say, you'd be in the Rolodex, so to speak.
Also, too, Craig, we have a question to the panel in the meeting chat room. Miranda asks, how likely does Michigan contract with small businesses? And Val, if you want to comment on this question too, we appreciate that as well. With your experience as a buyer.
We're very likely to contract with small businesses. That's one of the things that this outreach program is about. But when Eric talks in a few minutes, he's going to talk about what is a small business, what do you have to do, and in total, just listen to what we got going on in the presentation. If you've got more questions, please ask Miranda. But it is very likely we do a lot of business with small businesses.
Yep, our spend isn't limited to like 1 or 2 or 3 large contractors. We do have big dollar contracts because there are some things the state needs that only a large vendor can provide, like healthcare. But we have 9, like we mentioned at the head of this, there are 900 contracts out there. They're not all huge contracts. We spend billions with a B in a year, and that's spread out against all sorts of contractors, big and small. It runs the gamut. And it actually, go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you for responding to the question. But please, if you have more to add, please do so, Craig.
Yeah, no, that's it. I was just saying that actually segues nicely into the next slide and the next little section here. Are you open to working? Oh, we got another question. Are you open to working with startups? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the process a little bit. But what I would say, within the bidding process, incumbency might be viewed by the state. Like Val can probably fill in a little bit more. We're looking at the quality of the bid itself. And we're going to talk about that in a few upcoming slides. So yes, we are open working with startups, but you need to dot your I's and cross your T's and curl your Q's, so to speak.
And Craig, I'll add on to that as a testimonial. I think it's maybe 2023, late 23, early 20, around the time of the change of calendar year. Worked with the executive office to work with a new startup, actually, who was just branching off on her own after leaving the city of Detroit to start her own consulting business. So yes, the state of Michigan is very much open and interested in working with startups and small businesses. And not just share that example as one testimonial.
So given that background information, how do you do it? Well, the first step, if you only take one thing away from this presentation, it's this. I mean, we hope you take more away, but this is the beginning of it, right? This is where you start this process. You have to register your business in Sigma Vendor Self-Service. We post all our bid opportunities in Sigma. You must if it's posted somewhere else, it's probably not a state project, right? The state posts in Sigma VSS. And you must register and get a Sigma VSS account to bid on open solicitations. And we're going to talk about this in the next 2 to 3 slides at length. Your registration is free, and this is one system for posting. And if you become a vendor, this is where you get paid. And this is where you manage your account info, like what your business does and who to contact. If you get set up, or you're starting the process of getting set up and you get tripped up by like technical things or the system, reach out to Sigma's help desk. They will help you. They are very good over there. That's what they do all day in, day out. If you reach out to me, you're like, hey, Craig, how do I do this Sigma thing? I'm going to send you straight to the help desk because I don't have a business. I don't work in Sigma, but Sigma works in Sigma all day and they're there to help and they're great at it. And the next slide, we just kind of show what Sigma looks like. So this is what Sigma looks like. This is where you log in. This is where you register. One hot tip, if you go one button to the right under view grant opportunities, there is a view open solicitations, or a button that reads slightly like that. That's essentially guest access. So you don't have to log in if you want to poke around and just see what's posted. You just got to click one to the right, because those scroll. It's to the right of view grant opportunities. You can start looking at like open solicitations without logging in. It's a guest access feature. And you're welcome to use that. But we do encourage you to actually register. And speaking of encouraging you to register, there are two extremely important parts of registering. I see Eric's face pop up.
Yeah, and just prior to us talking about those two important components to add to a user registration account, is that, as Craig mentioned, you do not need a Sigma user account to view any open solicitation in Sigma. However, if you do see a solicitation that you're interested in bidding on, then you must first create a user account first, and then the system will allow you to bid on that solicitation. So just want to make you aware of that provision as well.
I'm going to
And
add
then,
something. I'm going to add, just pop something else in there too. This is
please,
the page, and the guest access is what the buyers within the state of Michigan look at, because we can't see it from your point of view unless we come in here and look. We have other things that we do on the backside that we can see, but to see your view, we have to come in and use that guest access too. So don't be afraid to use it. But more importantly, if you want to bid and you want to work with the state, you need to register.
Correct.
thank
You have to register. And then when you register, you need three things. I mean, you fill out your full account. Don't do a half job. When you set up your account, register and fill in everything. But you especially don't want to skip the next three things I'm going to talk about. One of the biggest ones are commodity codes. So what are commodity codes? If you're not familiar, the state of Michigan uses the National Institute of Government Purchasing Codes, also called NIGB codes, which is a descriptive numeric system that correlates to various goods and services. If you have done any federal contracting, or if you've registered on federal system, they have their NAICS codes. These are similar. If you're familiar with that, NIGB codes and NAICS codes are similar. They're different system, but they work similarly. So when you register to do business in the state, you have to add commodity codes to your account, because that is the only way the state knows what goods or services you sell. With commodity codes, that's how the system will notify you too. If something comes up for bid that matches your codes, you're getting a notification. And what I would tell you as a vendor, don't limit your codes. This isn't like old school SMS texting. We're not charging you 10 cents per code. Registering is free. Go broad. If you get too many false positives, you can always scale it back. But we need to know what you buy or what you sell. And this is how we know. And if you do not do this, you are essentially doing all this work and then are invisible to the state.
Think of Sigma as the master Rolodex. If you're not in here and we don't know what you sell, you don't have a hope of doing business with the state.
Exactly. And speaking to like some of the programs that Eric's going to talk about, or that was low dollar purchases, using those commodity codes might be how a buyer looks you up, right? Like, who has these commodity codes that matches this commodity I need to buy? Like, do not skip that part. And this is how the system notifies you. And we got Eric. What you got?
so there's a question in the meeting chat room. Miranda writes,
Yep.
where do you find commodity codes? Is it the same as NICS? So we've already kind of discussed that NICS is a federal system. It's a little different than NIGP. And with commodity codes, Craig is going to talk about that later in the presentation.
We got two places for you to look. One in Sigma itself, and then we have a list outside of Sigma, and we're going to share that in a few slides. But before we do that, there's another part of this. This is especially important. Your business types are important because they establish your eligibility for various state of Michigan programs. There's a list of business types when you register your business. And it's going to ask you, like, are you veteran owned? Are you in a disadvantaged business enterprise? Are you woman owned? All sorts of those kind of businesses. select all that are applicable to your business, all of them. What this does is lets us know who our vendor base is, and it makes you eligible for certain. It can make you eligible for certain programs, and it can make you eligible for certain programs in the future. This is the other side of commodity codes. This is the other part you do not want to skip and you should not skip. The state needs to know who you are so we can reach out to you if we need a quote, or we would like to include you in a program that would advantage your business. We need this info. If you do not do this, the system is essentially blind to you. And then at the beginning of these slides, I also talked about, like, I mentioned 3 things, and like, what's the third thing? And it feels ridiculous to say this in 2025, but you'd be surprised. We need an email address, and we need an email address that you check, right? Because if you use some like system email address that no one in your office is checking, you're just using to log in, you're getting all these notifications from us, and then you come to us and you're like, well, I'm not getting any. You're like, I'm not getting any opportunities to bid, and then invariably we ask, well, did you put in an email address that you check? So, commodity codes, business types, an email address that you actually check. But if you want to become a vendor for the state, you have to register in Sigma. That's where you bid. And if you were awarded a contract, that's where you get paid. You enter in all your commodity codes and an email address to receive relevant bid notifications. And then you enter in your business types to be eligible for purchasing programs or preferences, which Eric will talk about at length. And now I'm going to jump over to Val, and she's going to take us through how to actually participate in the solicitation. And this is exciting because Val used to be a buyer, so she's been on the other side of the desk here.
Yeah, absolutely. For over 10 years here in central procurement, I was in the solicitation division. And the main thing to remember is that we don't just give away contracts. You actually have to participate in a solicitation. We're required by law to actually solicit for and obtain competitive quotes. As Craig alluded to earlier, if it's informal, that's fine, but we still have to get at least 3 quotes or work to our due diligence to get 3 quotes to get the best product. So that being said, for very, very small businesses, and later on, as Eric talks about things, that's going to be super important, but it's always necessary. We have to, it's the law. So if we're doing a actual formal solicitation, this was kind of the process. These are for jobs that are $50,000 or more. And there is a particular process that we follow. We have established that this is very broad. This is the process that we use enterprise-wide, not only in central procurement, but this is the process that is now being followed also on the agency level. So once you get into a solicitation, you find something on Sigma, you're going to want to do it. The steps are all going to be very, very similar. So first thing first, when you get your bid solicitation documents, read them. Be sure you pay attention to the solicitation proposal instructions. That's very, very important. Within there, you may find that you are required in order to bid to attend a pre-solicitation meeting or a pre-bid meeting. Some of those meetings are mandatory. If they are mandatory, if you fail to attend and you decide to bid, we can't even open your bid. You have to attend if the meeting is mandatory. A lot of them have optional meetings, but I would still encourage you to go because you're going to find out more about the process. And you may find out more about what it is that the solicitation manager is attempting to find out in order to make an informed decision. Also in the process, once you've read your documents, you've gone to the meeting if there is one, there is always a question and answer period. Now, there are going to be rules that are established in the proposal instructions, but follow those rules with regard to question and answer. Take advantage of that. Don't not do it thinking, oh, my question is foolish, or I don't really know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. That's the whole point. If you don't understand something, ask a question. There's going to be a process for that. Typically, it is emailing the solicitation manager with your questions by a specific deadline. Eric, did you want to pop in?
Yeah, I just had a question about the pre-bid meeting. Are
Mhm.
those meetings open to the public?
Yeah, anybody can go to a pre-bid meeting. There's no problem. Anybody can go to a pre-bid meeting. Let me caveat that. Sometimes in some situations where the space is limited, it may be limited to a specific number of people bidding. If you're not planning to bid, don't go. There are going to be places where solicitations require you to be potentially pre-vetted and checked out and go through a lean process through the state of Michigan, particularly if you have to enter into a state of Michigan prison facility.
Corrections.
People just can't wander in. It is open to the public, but I wouldn't waste my time coming as a public member because they're going to be talking about stuff you probably don't care about. If you're bidding, you're going to want to go. Plain and
Would it
simple.
be, would it also be possible if, say, a small business owner was interested in maybe doing work on a project, but it wasn't not necessarily as a prime, but as a sub? Would that be a good opportunity for them to network with some primes that might be also in attendance?
I don't know that it would be a networking opportunity, but you would have an opportunity to go and see what the project is, see if it is you want to bid on it, and approach people that you believe you may have seen there or have heard there. I mean, a true networking opportunity, I wouldn't go that far. But yeah, if you're looking at a bid and you think, wow, I could really do part of this, but I can't do it all myself, there's nothing that says that our primes can't subcontract work out. So, um, it's definitely a possibility. It might get you a foot in the door and get you some experience too. Craig?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great,
One
thanks.
thing that I do like to add to this pre-bid meeting talk is be very, very detail oriented and pay attention to where it is, because it might not be somewhere, it might not be right down the street, right? We've had pre-bid meetings on Mackinac Island, and if you do not show up from for that ferry, we're not turning around for you. Like some of those, yeah, some of those pre-bid meetings might have like walkthroughs in secure facilities, and you have to show up very early. Um, Pay attention to those. And per
Yeah.
Val's point, yes, you can show up as a subcontractor, and we networking, I think, actually is kind of a strong word, but like you can definitely make yourself known. Like, oh, I want to do electric. Like, I might be a good sub for electrical for these big state projects because of X, Y, Z. That's how you let the primes know that you exist.
Yeah. Now, typically the solicitation process I'm talking about, just to clarify, does not have to do with construction. Construction and all that stuff goes through the building and design division. But to his point, that's absolutely true. You may have something that you need to offer, want to make sure that you're the right fit. And by all means, go to those meetings. Ask the questions afterwards. You're not going to be allowed to really ask questions during a pre-bid meeting. Keep your list of questions together and ask them during the Q&A time. And the reason for that is if somebody asks a question and I'm talking to them and you might be over here and you might actually be having a side conversation, you might miss it. And that is the unfair advantage for the people who directly ask the question. That's why all of our questions are done in writing. All the answers are provided in writing. Right? During the course of a solicitation, there may be addendums come out. That's when we answer the Q&A. We do send that out as an addendum to the original, but there could be addendums that update. Let's say we go to a pre-bid meeting and people have got, we see some things there that we thought we may not have answered or might not have presented in a way that makes sense. We may revise our solicitation, and you keep track of those. Watch for those too. So here you go. You've been there, you've looked at everything, you decided you want to bid, you asked your questions. The main thing is now is to respond to the bid details. You're going to see bid boxes, you're going to see questions being asked. Some of you might spend a lot of money on marketing. We don't care about any of the marketing. If we ask a question, we want you to respond specifically to the question. We don't want to see, oh, we have a great history of doing this and we're number 5 in the nation and all that other stuff, because that's not the question. You're not there to do that type of a sales to us. We want to know, can you do what it is that we're asking? Because that's how we're evaluating. The rest of it is fluff. It gets you nowhere. And we want to make sure that we truly understand that you're capable. So respond to the questions that are asked. Respond as fully as you can. Make sure you don't leave blanks. If we've had bidders who are incumbent and said, I'll do the same that I'm doing now. That loses points because I don't know who you are. Maybe somebody else doesn't know who you are. We are only looking at the responses that you have provided in writing in your response. This is not the time where we think about past performance. We are looking for this. This is during the solicitation process and eventually the technical evaluation. And that's what we want to know. So be sure to respond to all the items, respond to all the bid details, provide what we want. There's a question in there that trips a lot of people up because we want to know what your annual income is. Now, you may be reticent to tell us exactly, but then give us a range. If you don't answer it, we cannot necessarily determine if you are financially stable enough to do the work that we need done. We have to see that you're making money. We have to see that you're increasing or at least staying stable, because we do take that into consideration. So be sure you answer those questions. Be sure you answer the questions about how many people you have working for you, because that's going to be in the vendor question worksheet. We want to know this stuff because we do take into consideration, once we've passed technical, what is the impact to the state? Because if we're comparing apples to apples and it gets down to that, we may want to award to a Michigan-based company that hires more people at a better rate than some company coming out of state and paying their people dirt poor. Those are things we consider after technical, but it's important stuff, so don't miss it. And lastly, submit on time. Do not wait, do not wait, do not wait. This is not like in the private sector. You put your bid in, it's in a lockbox, and we can't see it until after the bid and after the sync cycle. So we might ask for our bids at 3 o'clock. It doesn't sync till 4. We're not going to be able to see the thing until 4:30. So don't be afraid to put your bid in early. Take as much time as you can, but do it early because anything can happen. I've had vendors that are calling me the last minute. Oh my gosh, I can't seem to get it to work. Well, when did you start working on it? Well, like 10 minutes ago. Too bad, so sad. Sorry for you, Charlie. I had people say, hey, we were going to put our bid in this morning, but we had a pipe burst and our computers all went out. I can't help you. Now, there are times when technical things happen. Let's say you're starting early and there's an issue, there's a glitch. You put in a tag with the Sigma help desk, and I can see you've been trying to work on this problem and there's still a problem. There is a possibility that even though I can't get it in Sigma, I might be able to work something out for another way. But I can't do that if you're not doing it early. So number one, submit on time. Be early. Don't wait. I can't shop your prices. No one can. So don't worry about that. All right, next slide. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Because I know it's an awful lot. All right. So bid evaluation. Like I kind of mentioned, we've got all the stuff that we want to know about. Some of our solicitations are very long and very complex, and some are shorter. Even when Eric talks about bids, there's going to be things that we need to know. We need you to give us that information because that's how we're going to evaluate. We're required, once we receive our bids, to do a technical evaluation. We basically go through and score your responses based on scoring criteria that was identified in the solicitation document, towards the top in the procurement instructions. It's going to be up there. You're going to see how the scoring comes in. Typically, you need to at least get us 80 out of 100 to pass technical. It could change. People have been known to put different point scales on, and that's fine, but that information is going to be in the instructions. If you don't pass technical, we're not even going to look at your pricing. You're done. You have to pass technical to proceed to the next level. We do this evaluation, either myself as a solicitation manager, if I'm doing it myself, so if it's smaller bid, it might be me and a subject matter expert, maybe the people down at the print plant that are familiar with paper products. We might just do it to the two of us, or we may have a joint evaluation committee that is usually 3 or more people, 3, 5, 7. It's always an odd number. And we take a look at the bid responses that you're providing. All right. We evaluate them. Do you pass 80? Now we can look at your pricing. But I really want to emphasize what we have here. Awards are based on best value, not always the lowest price. You've got a product that you think is superior, or you provide something that your competitors don't provide. You're willing to do something above and beyond. If your price is not scary out of reach, we may consider you over the low price, because the low price people may have passed technical, but we may have a lot of issues with them. All right. So always think, what's my best foot forward, and give my best price. A lot of times we'll come around and do a second round pricing. Depending on your business and your business requirements, you may or may not be able to offer additional low pricing. But regardless, put your best foot forward. We then, after we've made our decision, we will post and publish an award recommendation and an evaluation synopsis. We're in there and we tell you, this is who we're recommending, and this is the scoring that we gave to all the people. And you're going to see in there where you had a deficit. We don't tell you about the good things because that goes without saying, but we're going to be saying, this is where we took points off, and you're going to be able to see how you compare to everyone else. And you're going to understand, hopefully, if we've done our job, why we did an award to you. If you want further information, though, after that award recommendation and synopsis is posted, we are required by law now to post all solicitation responses online. So you're going to be able to see those. Now, this is in the form of solicitation, not necessarily in the non-formal. Okay, so don't worry about that. The last thing that I want to say is, whether you get an award or you don't, please take advantage of the debrief. As a buyer, I want to make sure that my vendors are as strong as they possibly can be, because the state is only as strong as the people who they're contracting with. And we want you to be successful, because if you're not successful, you're not going to provide us what we need, and it's going to be a disaster. So we really want you to be successful. So take advantage of a debrief. We can really get into the meat and potatoes of your responses. We're not going to compare you to someone else, but what it is that you can do to make your solicitation, make you shine the next time around. Does anybody have any questions about this at this point? Okay, next slide. So we're going to go ahead and turn this section over to Eric, and he's going to talk about this and the next section. Eric, back to you.
Thank you, Val. So does the state have any purchasing preferences? And the answer to that question is yes, we do. The state has 2 purchasing preferences I'd like to discuss with you this morning. The first being is our service-disabled veteran-owned business preference. This is a 10% price preference to qualified bidders, and qualified bidders will provide us certification that they are a service-disabled veteran in order to qualify for this preference. And to learn more about this preference, please visit our website at Michigan.gov /SDVOV. And also Craig serves kind of as the administrator over the information. So, and Craig is here this morning. So if you do have any questions about the program at the end of this presentation, feel free to ask Craig for more information in regards to that matter. The second purchasing preference that we have is what we call our Community Rehabilitation Organization, or CROs. And this is also, both of these preferences are in statute as well. And this is a preference. This is actually a set aside. This is the only set aside program that we have at the state of Michigan. It is a set aside, contracts are set aside and allow for nonprofit charitable organizations that primarily operate and carry out recognized programs for employment and training services for people with disabilities. There is a CRO committee that is appointed by the governor that oversees this program and determines which contracts of those qualify to be set aside for CRO bid solicitation. So, in addition to purchasing preference, our last one being an all things being equal. And this really comes into play. And this is why it's so important when you register in Sigma that you provide us with your business types. Because in a circumstance or situation where all things are being equal between two competing bids, and when we say all things being equal, we mean all things, every aspect component of two competing bids are exactly the same, then we will use one of these factors to make an award. The first being is our Michigan preference. So if you are a Michigan-based business and you submit a bid and that there's a competing bid that's also equal to yours, but it's submitted by an out-of-state firm, we would award the contract to the Michigan-based business. In addition to that, if you participate in our Michigan Clean Corporate Citizen Program, then you receive a preference, again, in all things being equal. Likewise, if you indicate that you're going to use bio-based majority, you're going to use a majority of your bio-based products that are sourced here within the state of Michigan, you will also receive a preference in all things being equal. And the last one is our newest one in terms of purchasing preference, and that is our if you are a Michigan-based geographic disadvantaged business enterprise, then in a situation where all things are being equal, you would be awarded that contract as well. And I think there was a question that arose in the meeting chat room.
I'm answering that right now, Eric.
Okay.
While you're talking.
Thank you, Val. I appreciate that. So those are our preferences underneath all things being equal. And because our geographic disadvantaged business enterprise is our newest one, most people aren't familiar with that term or how to what's the eligibility to be a GDBE. Let's kind of talk about that and unpack what a GDBE is. But before we do that, first, are there any purchasing programs within the state of Michigan? And the answer to that question is yes. We have one purchasing program within the state of Michigan. It's called our Michigan Smart Community Program. And this is different than the formal solicitation process that Val discussed with you earlier this morning. Under the Michigan Smart Community Program, this is an informal competitive bid solicitation process where state agencies can use the Michigan Smart Community Program for contracts of up to $500,000. All that the agency would need to do using their delegated authority and the informal solicitation process is reach out to 3 registered vendors or more and receive quotes for services or pricing. So so as a small business owner, you would not have to submit a formal RFP, or rather you would just be required to submit pricing or a quote for service underneath the Michigan Smart Community Program. To learn more about MISC, please visit our website at Michigan.gov/MISC. And that was your comment that flashed on my screen. Thank you. Under MISC, let's talk about, if you're interested in learning more about MISC, you have to, in order to be a part of MISC, you have to meet certain eligibility requirements. So let's go over each one of those. First and foremost, to be a Michigan Smart Community vendor, you must be based here in the state of Michigan. And what we mean by based in the state of Michigan, we mean that your principal place of business, your main administration building or corporate headquarters is somewhere domiciled here in the state of Michigan. If you indeed that is the case, then you must meet one of 4 additional eligibility requirements. The first being that you are a small business, because MISC is a small business development program. And what we mean by a small business is that you are an enterprise that has less than 500 employees and have annual revenues of less than $25 million. If you meet that that eligibility requirement, then you are eligible to register in Sigma as a Michigan for the Michigan Inspired Community Program. Likewise, if you're a veteran owner, services able veteran owner, or if you are a CRO, then you too can also register your business in Sigma for the Michigan Inspired Community Program by selecting the appropriate business types that describe your enterprise. And the last category of vendors who are eligible to be part of MISC is, again, if you meet the eligibility requirements to be considered a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise, then again, you too are eligible to be a part of the Michigan Inspired Community Program. Thank you, Val. So let's talk about what is a GDBE and how do I know if you qualify to be considered a GDBE with the state of Michigan? As I mentioned earlier, GDBE, or Geographic Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, is a new category of vendor with the state of Michigan. It was established in 2019 per executive directive of the governor. And underneath this executive directive, it defines a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise as being one of the following. If you have gone through the U.S. Small Business Administration's HubZone certification program and have received certification as a HubZone business, then you are eligible to register with the state of Michigan as a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise. Likewise, if your principal place of business is located in a federally recognized qualified opportunity zone, or QOZ, as defined by the United States Secretary of Treasury, then you are also eligible to register in the state of Michigan as a GDBE. And the last eligibility requirements to be considered a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise is if a simple majority of your employees, just 51%, either live within or work within a QOZ, then you too can register with the state of Michigan as a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise. To assist you in determining your eligibility, we have a website that you can go to learn more about GDBE. If you go to the URL, Michigan.gov/GDBE, you can learn more about the eligibility requirements that we just discussed this morning. But also, too, there's going to be a qualified opportunity zone tool that you can use to see if your business resides within a QOZ, or if a majority of your employees either live within or work in a QOZ. And it can be found on our GDB website. This tool is a map of the state of Michigan that is geocoded with every address in the state of Michigan. And to use this tool, all you would need to do is type in your address of your business or place of residence of your employees and hit search. And if the search results resides within a identified qualified opportunity zones, then that indicates to you that you are eligible, that you meet the definition as a geographic disadvantaged business enterprise, and that we would encourage you to log into your Sigma VSS user account and tell us that information underneath your business types. Likewise, if you are familiar with the HubZone certification program, or SBA, or want to learn more about it, please visit SBA's Eastern Michigan District Office at the URL sba.gov/district/Michigan to learn more about the HubZone certification program. If you have already gone through the HubZone certification program or have been recently recertified as a HubZone vendor with the United States Small Business Administration, then again, please, we ask you to provide us that information underneath business types and associate that with your Sigma VSS user account. And with that, I will turn it over to Craig and ask him to talk about, are there any organizations that can assist you in government procurement?
Well, I'm going to bring us home. And the answer to that is an emphatic yes. In fact, we're with one of them today. I mean, that's why we are having this presentation. There are all sorts of great resources out there. We'll skip one down the line and we'll say the SBA is here. So Hi, SBA. Thank you for having us today. There are also the Apex accelerators, which are regional. They get funding from the Department of Defense, and they can help you navigate doing business with all levels of government, not just the state. They know the federal space, they know the local space. I'm assuming the same with the SBA. We just know about the state. I mean, we know a little bit about how the feds and the locals work, but that is not our area of expertise. We know just this much. But these organizations that you're seeing listed here will know more stuff. We have the Michigan Small Development Center, which is otherwise known as SBDC. They offer counseling and advocacy for new ventures. And that includes innovative technology companies, VetBiz Central, and the National Veterans Business Development Council. If you are a service disabled vet or just a vet generally, they understand how vets navigate government business. Definitely reach out to them. And then on the next slide, we're going to talk about, is there a website should I visit to see resources? Again, emphatic yes. You can go to Michigan.gov/MI procurement. We made it easy for you to remember. That's our main website. We call it Contract Connect. You go to Michigan.gov/MI procurement. You're going to land here. But we made another thing for you specifically for the vendor community. And we show that on the next slide. And you can get to that from our front page, or you can just type in Michigan.gov/let's do business. We have a web page. It's on our site, kind of a hub. It's like a web hub called Let's Do Business. And this links to everything we've talked about today. Like, if you want to look up your business types or commodity codes, we have those. We have a commodity code lookup that's not in Sigma. You can look up your commodity codes in Sigma, but you can look them up outside of Sigma. It might be handy to have them side by side, right? You can look up business types. We have a page that details how you register as a vendor. So when you sit down and do that Sigma, you can do that. We have a little checklist for you even. We have some videos. And then we have some places where you can research opportunities. We have our active contracts. Those are the contracts that are in place. We talked about those mid-presentation. We have bid proposals. That's kind of an interesting thing. Those are the actual bid proposals that were submitted by vendors like yourselves. We make those publicly available too. We redact them if there's any trade info or any like intensely personal info. But you can see and you can see the decision letter. You can see what a submitted bid looks like. It's all public. We have links to the pages that Eric was talking about, GDBE stuff. The big thing to know, Michigan.gov/let's do business. It points you to all the places, right?
And Craig, if I might add to under bid proposals, as Val mentioned before, we publish award synopsis and recommendations on our website. This is where you would go to look at recently awarded solicitations and awards synopsis. Again, it's health information as you look to develop your bids if you're looking to bid on a state contract.
Absolutely. And then the next slide, we look at the contract list, right? This is the contract list. These are all the contracts that are in place. You can use the filters and search boxes to find particular contracts. By clicking the link icon, you can download or view a PDF version of each contract, and you'll be able to see the whole thing, including current specs, change notices. Cover sheet will have important info such as the buyer's name and phone number, and the department day-to-day contact, and the vendor sales rep if there's one of those. Also, if you have any questions, I'm available. But if you scroll to the right, you won't see on the screenshot, but if you scroll to the right, you'll see value. That's the estimated spend of the contract award for all the base years and is not reflective of actual spend, which may be less. It includes the monetary total of any subsequent change notices. And important note, the dashboard scrolls left and right. There's more info to the right. Solicitations can go up to 6 months before the expiration date. So if you're trying to game out stuff, please pay attention to the next slide also. But if for a good or service that's already in place, we could bid that out up to 6 months in advance. And here's a hot tip. You might consider contacting existing state contract holders about the opportunity to serve as a subcontractor on state contract. That might not necessarily work. Those similar caveats to our buyers list that we talked about a few minutes ago towards the middle of the presentation, that still holds there. No one necessarily has to pick up that call or have that meeting, but you can make them aware of your good or service. Same with the vendor. Val, I see you popped up. Do you have something to add? No? All right. So now we're going to talk about the weather. And the reason I say that, this is our vendor opportunity dashboard. This is our weather forecast. This lists planned upcoming projects and projects anticipated to be going out for bid. You can get to it from our Let's Do Business page. This is out there. It's in the menus. This is what's coming up, right? If we need to bid something out within this, or we're going to rebid something, this is our forecast for that. Things change, things can move, priorities change. Like, it's the same in government as it is in private business. Things just change. So sometimes this might not be accurate. That's why I like to call it the weather forecast. Usually it's pretty close, but sometimes things can draft as needs change or evolve.
Yeah, and Craig, if I can add, as Craig mentioned, just like the weather forecast, this just gives you a preview of an idea of what bids that state that are getting ready to come to term or expire, and that the state might be looking to rebid. This is also a place too where new bids will also be posted as well. So in addition to Sigma, you can also go here and look at some upcoming bids. And this dashboard goes out, I think, to fiscal year 2032. So again, if you had your eye on a contract that maybe is not set to expire for a couple of years, this gives you an idea in terms of what those terms and conditions and the scope of work, the services related to that, so you can continue to monitor that as it gets close to expiration and rebid.
And then kind of bringing it home, just a quick review. This is how we're split up. We're Central Procurement Services, or State of Michigan Procurement. We handle IT, we handle commodity and professional services. That's kind of how we're split up. Then there's a real estate and design construction division. And then the state agencies, they have that delegated authority. They're buying those things under that $500,000 threshold, unless there's an exception, like the MDHHS, All Human Services. If you're looking to become a vendor, Sigma, register. Look there. That's where we post what's out for bid. If you're going to be bidding on something, you're going to be doing Sigma. The sooner you wrap your head around the getting in Sigma and taking care of that, the sooner you're on the path to being a vendor. We have a Let's Do Business website that's got links to everything, including Sigma, including tips on how to register in Sigma. That's the hub for all the info. We got links to everything there. We have a contract list. You can look at the contracts in place. They're publicly available info. You can see, you can open it, you can see who the buyer is, when it expires, do we have option years? Have we exercised those option years? Everything's right there. And then a debrief. You bid on something and you don't get it, or you get it. Take advantage of the debrief period. We'll tell you, like, that buyer will walk you through your bid and we'll tell you where you did good, where you did bad, where the scoring broke down for you. It's not to compare you against other vendors. A debrief is specific to your bid and how you scored and where you fell short or where you succeeded. Definitely take advantage of that, because State of Michigan, we're selfish. We want the best vendors possible. And how we get there is educating and lifting up the vendor community to be better bidders. So take advantage of those free programs. Like you'll walk through it with an expert, someone like Val, who the person that actually scored your bid will tell you how you did. You just have to set that up. And then the last slide, we just got some contact info. This is who we are. This is how to get a hold of us. If you have any questions, especially, you can reach out to us. Like, don't be shy. Because this is us, right? We can answer those questions. And we have mailing list. We send out highlight, not all of them, but highlighted contract opportunities every month. So definitely join our email list. That's a great way to be inside, get inside info. We'll send out tips and tricks and upcoming events and that kind of stuff too. So that concludes the formal part of this presentation. And thank you for SBA for having us. Michigan contract with their foster care department. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to present and to talk to our members today. We really enjoyed it. As you can see, they have their contact information up here, and a recording of the webinar as well as the slides will be sent to you in your email after we are done here today. So you will be able to reference the presentation and the slides if you want to go back and hear something again. Thank you again to the Department of Procurement. We really appreciate your time, and we hope to see you all at our next webinar.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. You guys
Bye,
take care.
everyone.